When you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some relatively minor social missteps, or poorly chosen words you did/said years earlier? And then beat yourself up over it even though it really wasn't a big deal? If so, what happened? I was in the 4th grade, and it was Valentine's Day. I was the new kid in school, and this one boy had been picking on me all year. My 10-year-old self was very non-confrontational, so I wrote a paragraph on the back of his Nerd's Valentine, explaining that I don't like it when he's mean to me, and I don't understand why he has to be. He couldn't read my handwriting and brought it to the teacher, who made me read it aloud to both of them. I think about that day every day of my life. He even ended up finding me online and contacting me to apologize a few years ago, but all I can think of is the cringe. 4th grade classroom. We were having a face-off between students on who could name the capital of whichever state our teacher named. I had been on a roll getting a few correct in a row. Then the teacher says Kentucky. With all of the enthusiasm and seriousness in the world, I screamed Frank fart. Everyone was dying laughing except for me, at the time. Looking back, it cracks me up that I was so upset about it. I was visiting Portland for a wedding that lined up with my birthday as well. We went out to celebrate and finished the night at a karaoke bar. Realizing I'm too drunk to sing I Pick My Name Is by Eminem as my song to perform. There's 2 versions of that song. One is the original release, the other tamed down, which you most commonly hear today. The woman controlling the music put on the original, and off I went. One of the lines at the end is running over lesbians in a spaceship, while they screamin' at me let's just be friends. I finished the song and I'm met by applause from my friends and one other table. The rest of the place is silent. The DJ goes nice job. Don't know if it was the best choice for women's night though. And at that moment I wanted to leave my skin. In 7th grade, a cute girl asked me to sit next to her. I said my mom won't let me sit next to girls. My mom said no such thing. When I was in the 4th grade, I lived in the middle of nowhere, and there was practically no minorities, just white county people. This Mexican family had just moved in, and could barely speak any English, and I befriended one of the kids my age in school. He came over to my place, and we were both joking around about his bad English. Just doing what kids do. I would pretend to speak with his accent, and then he would copy, and it was silly, stupid and innocent. My mom told me I was being really inconsiderate, and how uncool it was to make fun of someone for not being able to speak English. I felt terrible. The next day at school my friend came up to me and started joking with me again, but I just shook my head and looked down at my desk in embarrassment. He had no idea what was wrong, and I was too young and dumb to be able to explain my behavior to him. As I grew older I spent probably 20 years thinking about that day, and how much of I was to be friendly one day and then, without explaining anything, just stop talking to him out of embarrassment. I felt really bad about it for a long time, and often laid awake at night thinking about it. I ended up finding him on Facebook about a year ago, and we friend each other, so I told him how bad I felt about it and apologized. He just laughed it off and said it was no big deal, and he was still really thankful to find someone as friendly as me when he didn't know anyone here. He said he figured my mom had said something to me about it, and it never bothered him. I don't know if maybe he was just being nice to me or not, but it was such a relief to hear it. It really felt like a weight had been lifted off of me. This happened back when I was 6th or 7th grade. Me and a couple of friends were browsing the neighborhood our school was in after the school day was over. We happened on a bus stop with a couple of girls seemingly our age. We stopped and tried to chat them up, but their bus came soon after, and they had to go. We see their bus stop at a traffic light not 20 meters away, and one of us says let's run to the next stop. Nobody thought to ask then what? And off we were, sprinting madly behind the bus. Surprisingly enough, we somehow made it to the next stop just as the bus was arriving. Then the doors opened, the girls sat there giggling and we did nothing. Literally. I even remember it like the bus driver held the doors a bit longer, but I might be imagining it as the memory is so old. We just sat there, trying to catch our breaths as my lungs burned. And then the doors closed and the bus went off to the next stop. And none of us said anything. We just walked it off, went on to the next stupid we would do. I don't know about any of the other guys, but this still haunts me as one of the cringiest moments of my life so far. I accidentally mixed up an inside joke with the wrong friend group with disastrous results. Friend group number 1. The joke was when someone calls and asks who's all there, we would add Daryl to the list of names. Daryl wasn't a real person. The joke wasn't really funny, and made no sense out of context, but I guess that's why it was an inside joke. Friend group number 2. I was hanging out playing some drinking games with a bunch of people that I hadn't hung out with in a while. It was a kind of get-together to remember a friend that they had who had recently died in a car accident. I didn't know him that well, but I was always down to party. Anyway, the phone rings, and the person who answered started listing off names. Sorting my cards for another round of presidents and assholes, I offhandedly said, "Hey, and Daryl." It was the typical record scratch moment where everyone stopped and looked at me. Daryl was the name of the friend who had just died. This happened in 2002 and I still think about it all the time.